What's going on, guys? Doing another rebuilding video today, and I'm going to do the Dallas Mavericks. Now, some of you might be wondering why I'm doing the Mavericks, and this is because they are currently the worst team in the West and maybe even in the entire NBA. So I feel like they need a rebuild, and throwing Dirk Nowitzki is one of my favorite players and has been one of my favorite players for quite a while. I think it's justified to give him a rebuild. My main goal was to build with him into the future and get him a championship ring. I don't want to get rid of him, as he is the Mavericks' greatest player they've ever had and their biggest centerpiece. So first things first, I'm trying to dump a lot of guys I don't think is useful on the team. So right here I'm getting rid of Wesley Matthews and Devin Harris. Wes Matthews, I did like him on Portland as I'm a Portland fan. However, he hasn't done much in Dallas, and then Devin Harris is just kind of old at this point, not really worth it. So I trade them away, and I believe some sort of pick. But I do pick up Jordan Clarkson, a guy who I pick up quite often, and is very, very useful in this game. Now I'm getting rid of some other guys. I'm getting rid of Darren Williams at this point. He's kind of decent still, but he's also kind of old. And he doesn't have a massive contract, but I feel like I can get something decent for him in return. So I'm looking for some things, and I really don't care who I'm giving away with him, because most of these guys are borderline players and sorts of Dorian Finney-Smith and AJ Hammonds. So I am able to trade him away for basically Josh Richardson. I got someone else. I don't really do. Oh, Josh McRoberts as well, I believe. Anyways, doesn't really matter. I wanted Josh Richardson, as he's a pretty solid young shooting guard who you can build with in this game very well. And I think he'd fit really well next to Dirk as a floor spacer. Now, I'm getting rid of JJ Barea, who's having a phenomenal year so far this season. However, I really don't need him on this team, as I have a younger player that I like a little bit more in Jordan Clarkson, so I actually am able to flip him for Rudy Gobert for a complete steal on my end. Now I'm trying to get rid of Andrew Bogut, and I have to throw in a pick as well because of the fact that Bogut has a pretty sizable contract for the season, over $11 million. And the thing is, he's aging, and I already have a much better center in Gobert, who does similar things, not as great of a passer, but he is a much better rebounder and defender at this point, even though Bogut is elite at both. So I'm going between Tyler Johnson and actually that was Josh McRoberts. I didn't get Josh McRoberts earlier, but I ended up getting it for Frank Kaminsky and Jeremy Lamb. I did this because I feel like both these guys are really solid off the bench, whereas guys in Tyler Johnson, I'd have to struggle where I feel like he's a starter, but I have other guys I'd rather start. So a big issue on that part. Now this is because I had way too many centers. I'm trying to get rid of Salah Mejri, and there's no one really I can think of, so I ended up picking up Anthony Bennett. This is probably one of my worst trades I've ever made, simply because of the fact that Anthony Bennett is a borderline scrub, if not a borderline legitimate NBA player at this point. However, he's pretty fun to use, as the fact that he's basically a very, 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 very poor man's, homeless man's version excuse me, of Larry Johnson. So I think he's pretty fun to use, and even though he doesn't fit super well on this team, I feel like he's really fun to use regardless. And plus the fact that we had so many centers, it's kind of worth it to just throw in another big guy, but you know, a guy like a small forward, power forward, combo forward kind of guy. So anyways, this season is starting off a little rough, and as I always say, I do not care about the first season in most rebuilds. Of course, if I'm using a good team like the Cavs or the Warriors, the first season does matter. But for this one, especially when I gave away the traded draft pick, it doesn't really matter to me, as also, as you saw earlier, I generate the roster, or generate the draft class all the way up until maybe about February or March in real life, because that's when the draft classes become a little bit more realistic. At this point, it's basically high school recruiting 2.0, just whoever the top high school recruits, you just throw them into the draft class. That's no fault of the 2K users, but that's just really what happens in real life. But the thing is, we're going on a hot streak right now. I know we just lost a few games, but we are floating right above 500, and we are having a pretty solid season. We're in the playoffs. I'm not going to say how it ends up the season, but you'll see me continue on through the season. So we're floating around the 8-9 seed, which is what I expected the Mavericks to do this year, but they have been absolutely atrocious. There have been a ton of injuries on their team, which is, you know, not 100% their fault, but I don't know. Their team doesn't seem that well constructed all around. I know I always hate on Harrison Barnes, but he's playing extremely well this season. I expect him to be kind of like a scrub and just a waste of money, but even though he's not putting up a lot of assists and he's basically only scoring, he's doing it at a pretty decent clip, and I think he actually is warranted for, maybe, I don't know if warranted is the right word, but he can justify his contract in some means, because I honestly thought he was going to be exactly like what he was on the Golden State Warriors when they gave him opportunities that he would just shy away from and not do much. But he's actually coming up to the plate and having some pretty solid season. So anyways, if you're wondering about the roster construction of this team, basically my viewpoint was I want to build around Dirk, and I know Dirk is aging and getting older by the minute. However, the thing is, Dirk is still very special in this game. He's a great scorer. He can't defend or rebound, but the thing is, he has pretty much an A+ from everywhere once he gets hot on the court, and he can hit almost any shot, barring, you know, like Steph Curry step backs and stuff like that. So basically my philosophy was keep Dirk and build around him, very similar to when the Dallas Mavericks won the title in 2011, which is basically the first year that I was super into basketball, which gives me the reason why I love Dirk so much. I mean, I always used to watch basketball, but I didn't get this like crazy amount of like knowledge and all that crap. I'm not even going to talk about that, but all this knowledge about basketball until about the 2011 season. So this was like the first finals I've watched like all the way through, and the way that Dirk dominated and the Miami Heat just completely faltered, just self-combusted, self-destructed in the finals was amazing for me to watch. And I absolutely love Dirk, so my whole idea was to build a team very similar to that 2011 team, which centered around, of course, Dirk. But they had guys on their team that I feel like are kind of replicated right now. So at center, back then they had Tyson Chandler, and Rudy Gobert is pretty similar, you know, an athletic shot blocking, rebounding big guy who basically doesn't demand the ball besides on lobs. For point guard, they have a defensive-minded guy. I know Jordan Clarkson isn't the greatest defender, and by the way, I'm showing you my roster and any awards. I don't believe a single one of our guys got any recognition at all, but I'm going to show you the stats as well, so you can go check those out. And Dirk actually got hurt at the end of the season, so that kind of explains the reason why we missed the playoffs. So we have other guys, like I mentioned Tyson Chandler, a defensive-minded point guard, even though Jordan Clarkson is the most defensive-minded, like Jason Kidd was back at that time. They're pretty similar as, you know, a guy who doesn't look for his own shot but tries to get, well, I mean, Jordan Clarkson does a little bit more, but, you know, a decent all-around kind of point guard. At shooting guard, the Mavericks had a really weird shooting guard. I believe it was not even Jason Terry, was it Deshaun Stevenson, I believe? Yeah, Deshaun Stevenson was the shooting guard for most of this season, and we have at this point, I don't even remember, we have Josh Richardson, my bad, who is a little bit different, but basically 3-and-D players. At small forward, it was Caron Butler and Sean Marion versus Harrison Barnes. So, you know, like, neither of those guys, and Caron Butler or Sean Marion at the time, were scorers, but, you know, had a pretty solid small forward. So it's a pretty similar construction. So anyways, you just saw the finals and what happened, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter as the fact that we weren't even in the playoffs. So right here, I signed all those guys who they told me to sign to team options. I gave them team options. And right now I'm going through all my free agents, and I always sign them to a minimum offer, which doesn't make too much sense because of the fact that I can probably pick up better guys for less. But anyways, right there, if you didn't see it, I also was able to pick up Shelvin Mack and Michael Beasley, two guys to pick up who are very special and are pretty useful on this team. So I believe that I sent a couple guys to the camps. I know I sent Gobert to big man defense because even though he's a great shot blocker, he can always improve. So right here, I saw a deal for DeAndre Jordan, and I thought, you know what? DeAndre's better than Rudy, so I'm trying to find a way that I can get DeAndre onto our team. And this is not only because of the fact that he pretty much replicates Tyson Chandler much better, but also because of the fact that DeAndre Jordan was supposed to be on the Mavericks before he went against his word. I was a little upset by that because I'm not a huge Mavericks fan, but I'm more of a fan of, like, you know, honesty. That sounds terrible, but right now I'm also trying to improve the shooting guard position, so I'm trading away Josh Richardson in hopes to get Chris Middleton. I know I get Middleton all the time, and I struggle with him a lot as he just doesn't seem to be super efficient. However, I'm looking for guys that I can put in this package, and a lot of these guys I can't because I signed them to contracts, and I don't want to give up Justin. Oh my God, sorry about all this coughing, but I do feel fine giving up Dwight Powell and Josh Richardson. So I'm looking at other guys I can give up. So Justin Anderson I don't want to give away, but I do feel fine giving away Seth Curry as well, as I'm not really using him a lot. So right here I give him away and I improve shooting guard quite a bit. So I'm going to trade away Jordan Clarkson with some first round picks in order to get Eric Bledsoe in return. And I feel like this team is really improving. Now I'm going to pick up some other guys because I'm lacking in some depth. So I ended up picking up guys in, I believe it was Mike Muscala, as well as Tony Roten to come off the bench. And they might not play a lot of minutes, but they're better than absolutely nothing in case there's ever any injuries or anything else of the like. So anyways, as I was saying earlier, this team is seeming much closer to the 2011 Mavericks team as, excuse me, as Eric Bledsoe is more similar to Jason Kidd than Jordan Clarkson is due to his really good defense and his, he's not really pass first, but he's not a score first kind of guy, but he's really a defensive minded guy, and I feel like he fits really well with Dirk because he can actually hit his outside shots pretty well, as well as be a decent playmaker. Now, DeAndre Jordan is absolutely perfect next to Dirk as well. That's how it was supposed to go. And a little spoiler alert, I didn't show it to you guys, but I tried to get Mike Conley as well because that was another speculation in years past that Mike Conley was going to try to go to the Mavericks. I've heard that from certain people. However, they didn't get him, and Mike Conley was demanding way too much, or the Grizzlies were demanding way too much in return, so I couldn't pick him up. But anyways, as I go on rambling, DeAndre Jordan was supposed to go to the Mavericks, as he did say he was going to, but went against his word and stayed with the Clippers. But whatever, we ended up picking him up, and the thing is, I feel like he will fit very, very well next to Dirk because Dirk, he does everything that Dirk does, and Dirk doesn't rebound until the playoffs, and Dirk cannot defend the rim, and DeAndre does both things incredibly well. And I mean, Dirk and Blake Griffin aren't really super similar, but both of them can step out of the paint, and you see how well it works there. So I feel like that is a perfect fit, as well as, you know, the things that we know for sure. Back in 2011 when they won the title, Tyson Chandler was an absolutely perfect center to have on that team. And if you ever watch that live or you watch it now, Tyson Chandler was pretty much at his peak at that point. Yes, he didn't make an All-Star team until 2013. I think he won Defensive Player of the Year in 2012 or 2013 or 2014 around that season. But that's when Tyson Chandler looked like an absolute animal, just destroying the Miami Heat. So that's what I wanted to build around right now. So we're having a much better season. Of course, we're not like the #1 seed, but we're hanging around the 3 to 5. We are way above 500 right now, which I'm happy about, and we have good chemistry as well as fan interest. I know I don't talk about that often, but we are doing pretty well, and I'm pretty happy about that, as usually my rebuilds take much longer, but this one seems to go much faster. And Dirk doesn't seem to slow down whatsoever. His stats might not be amazing, but the thing is, I was expecting him to actually retire after the first season. I don't know why. The thing is, if he did, I would do that cheesy overrule where you're allowed to overrule one retired player, and it would definitely be him to keep him on the team. But we finished the season 45-37, finishing with a 5th best record in the West. So right here, I stopped really quickly. This guy, Rex Pearson, I actually had the option to trade for him. I found him in a trade finder, and I didn't because of the fact that I hate computer-generated players in this game. And maybe I should have picked him up, but who knows. I'm only building to win one title. I'm not building for the future. If I was building for, you know, the long-term future, like 10 years from now, I should have done that. But since I'm building for only one title pretty much, I feel fine with DeAndre Jordan. So anyways, here are a lot of guys who got some awards. I do not believe a single one of our guys made it onto any defensive or any teams at all. Once again, actually, Eric Bledsoe made the all-defensive second team, which I'm happy about. But you don't see it very often. So let's jump right into all the awards and all the notes. So I believe the only guy on our team that actually got something was Eric Bledsoe for all defensive second team. Everyone else is completely blank for the season. So let's check out the stats. And everyone did pretty well this season, pretty happy. Big numbers by DeAndre. Bledsoe puts up solid numbers every year, it seems to be. Put up 15-7, almost a block and a half a game, and almost 3 steals a game. Chris Middleton really doesn't do much for me, but the thing is, he's a perfect fit at shooting guard on almost any team. So that's the reason why I keep on picking him up. And you're just seeing me scroll through these guys, and guys like Frank Kaminsky, who many people might have thought that was a bad trade, actually does really well for me. He's pretty useful when I actually play games with him, and as well as using him in the scrimmage, he's really fun to use. As he's a Dirk light, as just a really good shooter and perfect power forward center stretch combo. So anyways, I simulated the first round because I really didn't care, but we ended up beating the Oklahoma City Thunder, and we're going up against the Portland Trailblazers, and this was actually the exact matchup that happened back in 2011, except it was the first round. So what happened was Portland was playing Mavericks, and it was a 3-6 matchup where Portland was a 6 seed and the Mavericks were a 3 seed. And many people thought Portland would upset them, and that the Dallas Mavericks would be out in the first round, but the Mavs actually overcame that and won that series, and then played the Thunder, which you already saw, and then they played the Lakers, I think, in the conference finals, and then ended up going to the finals. So this is very similar, as they did play two of the same exact teams, and I believe that these Warriors teams are pretty similar to those Laker teams, or maybe it was, I think it was Portland, Lakers, Thunder, in terms of the matchup. And then they went up against the Miami Heat, as I said before. So it's pretty similar in the same matchups. I know it's a little bit different in terms of order, but right there, the Cleveland Cavaliers are up 3-1, and you know the 3-1 lead is absolutely horrible to have in sports, as we saw in many instances, whether it be the NBA this season. Twice it happened in the playoffs, as well as the MLB playoffs. So you know that lead is never ever safe. But we are coming back, and it is a 3-3 series right now. I was really nervous about this. However, in the in the 7th game, we are starting to pull away. So I decided to jump in and see what's going on so we can win the title. The first title we won in, 7 years, and the second title ever in the Mavericks history. So right here, Frank Kaminsky plays some great defense to get the steal. Pass it to Michael Beasley, who passes it to DeAndre Jordan, back to Frank Kaminsky, shooting the ball around. And Michael Beasley actually is pretty useful in this game. He's a good finisher, as you see right there. I believe he has 15 and 8, which is a really nice little stat line for him in the NBA Finals. Now, Dirk doesn't do much, as you can see, but he does have 23 points. And I did leave LeBron a little bit too open right there, but it doesn't really matter, as Dirk is absolutely an animal in this game. He hits a nice little hook shot to put him up to 25 points. I thought I got this steal right here, but we apparently didn't. That's just showing how beautiful LeBron is at basketball. My bad. He gets the ball stolen from him, gets it back, and is able to get a wide open 3. However, that's not everything, as Frank Kaminsky comes down and has a nice little one-handed dunk, and he does really well for me all the time. Now, once again, I see LeBron is doing too well and just finding guys. Doesn't really matter, though, as we're up big, and LeBron does get this layup. However, there is 12 seconds, we're up by 12 with 10 seconds left, and nothing much can happen. So I'm planning to dribble the ball out with Dirk. I'm just trying to get him around. However, I get fouled right here, and since we're in the bonus, Dirk can shoot his free throws, and this will bring him to his 28th and 29th point to finish off the Cleveland Cavaliers in the NBA Finals to lead the Dallas Mavericks to the NBA Championship. So I thought they were going to give Dirk the Finals MVP. I'm not going to say yet who won it, because of the fact that, it's Dirk, the greatest player who's ever played for the Mavericks, and, the most important Mavericks player of all time. But it doesn't matter, as they still won the title in 2018. As you see, Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe hugging in a very promiscuous and kind of weird way that I don't know why 2K always puts it that way. However, we had a really good season. This was actually a pretty quick and pretty fun rebuild. I thought it'd take much longer. Right there, as you see, Eric Bledsoe is holding up the Finals trophy, meaning that he won Finals MVP. And I'm pretty happy for him, as he has not really had real success since he was on the Clippers, and even then he was a bench guy and a starter for a tiny bit of time. But a lot of these guys, I feel really proud for them, as a lot of them haven't had a lot of success, barring, Dirk Nowitzki, of course. So I'm showing you the Cavaliers roster. It hasn't changed too much since real life and the real actual roster. So right here is the team, and this is really special to see. Of course, Harrison Barnes also won the title. So that is the roster. If you want to see it, you can pause and go back. But that is my roster to rebuild the Dallas Mavericks to an NBA championship within 2 years. Yes, only 2 years. So this was a really fun rebuild. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed making it and doing this video. So please give me a thumbs up. Comment down below what team you want to see me do next, or any opinions you have on this video. Maybe, hey, stop cheering for Milton or whatnot. Anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching, and of course, have a good day.